Thank you so much for doing this, by the way.
You're welcome. I'm really excited. I've never done anything like this before. So I'm always excited to do new things.
Hey, well, you and me both, so this is what makes it even fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started then. Welcome everyone to PhlattLine. This is your host, Flat McLean, and today I have a friend from India that we're going to be talking to today. We're going to have a conversation with her just to get to know who is Veena. So Veena, tell us just a little bit about yourself and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Vlad, for inviting me. I'm really excited to do this. So my full name is Veena Parmar. So it's like basically a really long name, Indian long name. I am from India. I have been born and raised here. I belong to a state called Rajasthan. So it's like a culturally rich heritage state. So it belongs like all the kings and kingdoms belong from Rajasthan. So I basically belong from there. But I grew in a city called Mumbai. So I'm not sure if you have heard of it. It's like the Hollywood of India. We call it Bollywood.
Okay.
So yeah, so I was born and raised here with my parents. I lived all my life with my parents. I completed my education. I started working like 4 5 years back. Then I wanted to switch to travel industry. So I quit my first job and I came to another city called Bangalore, which is in the southern part of India. And I did my MBA in tourism management.
Wow.
Yeah, so because I love traveling and I wanted to switch into this industry, so I thought I learned something about it first and then I'll start working. So I completed my MBA last year and I joined a business travel startup. So I'm working as a sales development representative in this company. And that's how I met you.
So you're from India. So you talked about Mumbai and what was the hometown that you said it was again?
State in Rajasthan. So we have states here, like
Okay.
US.
Okay.
Yeah, so we also have states here. So I'm
Yeah.
Mumbai is in Maharashtra and I'm like I belong to Rajasthan.
Okay. And I hope you forgive me for being not understanding of the culture over there, but that's the point of this, is so that we can understand what the culture is like over there. I didn't know that they had states. So just tell me a little bit about your state and kind of the culture there and the people. Are they friendly? Are they open? Are they closed? How is it over there?
So here each state has a different culture. Even if we share borders, so it's like India is in the world it's known for being diverse, right? It's the most diverse country in the world and it is true because each state in each state, each city, each district, each area is different culture. So the place where I belong to and the place where I've grown up in is are totally different culture. Rajasthan, where I belong to, is they have more. They are like more connected to their roots. They have more culture, more traditional people. We can also say that we there are good things, there are bad things. So we can see a lot of patriarchy over there, but then we see how it's changing, how the government is taking so many steps to remove all that. So we can see so many national schemes which the government is doing for girls' education. As the most number of government schemes I've seen is over there is in Rajasthan because people like they have ignored education and employment for girls over decades, and now they are really doing something about it. So I've seen that over there. So every year I visit to my hometown. So during vacations, either summer vacations or winter vacation, I visit there. So I've seen that culture, and the place where I have grown up in, it's like totally different. So I can say it's the New York City of India.
Wow.
So yeah. So basically, it's all urban. Everyone is educated. Everyone has jobs, freedom. That urban lifestyle we call it. So I've grown up in that environment. So these are like totally different cultures I've been grown up in. So I know like both the parts of the culture which I've been, and I respect both the cultures, and I know like how I try my best to pick the best of both cultures and try to implement them in myself and people around me.
No, that makes sense. So tell me, when you visited the different states, did you feel like you were actually leaving your own culture to learn about a different one when you went to a different state?
Yeah, so as I told you, right, I travel a lot. So I've been traveling in India only right now, and I've been going to different states. So yeah, I do feel like I'm going to another state. I'm leaving my home. One of the reasons being the languages are different.
Mm.
Every state, the language is different. Yeah.
How
So
many
we have
languages are there?
around 28 to 29 states, and the northern part of India has like it's like Hindi is a common language spoken in the northern part of India,
Okay.
but in the southern part of India people do understand it, but it's not that common. So it's very easy to communicate in Hindi in the northern part. But when we go to the northeastern part of India, it's again different. They have all different languages. When we come to southern part of India, they have different languages. So every state has a different language over here. I speak English and I speak Hindi. I speak my mother tongue, which is Marwari, and I speak Marathi, which is the language we speak in Maharashtra, the state where I grew up in.
Hmm.
So yeah, so these are the four languages I speak.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. Do you ever get confused when you're talking to someone what language you should speak in?
Actually, yeah, it was confusing when I first moved to Bangalore. So when I was living in Maharashtra, all my circle were either English speaking people or Hindi speaking people. But when I moved to southern part of India, Hindi is not very commonly spoken over here. So yeah, that time I had a little difficulty. But it's been like 2 years now I'm living here, and I don't want to. I seriously don't want to go anywhere from here. I love the culture so much. Like even I started to understand the language. Even if I don't understand it completely, I still understand like what are they trying to convey to me. And everyone is so sweet, so educated, so down to earth, so sensitive about everything. So I love that. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So give me a tip, since you're a travel expert. If I were to go to India, what would you recommend me to see?
Oh, it's a big country, so you have to like decide which states you want to visit. And generally, people when they come here, they cover the triangle, which is Delhi, Agra, Jaipur. So these are the places they cover. So it's basically the northern part of India. So
Okay.
Delhi is the capital of India. So they usually visit those. They go to Jaipur, which is in Rajasthan. Then they go to Agra. Agra is famous for the seven wonders of the world, the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, people do visit that. That's the common place people go. But if you and also depends on what kind of places you like. Do you like mountains? Do you like beaches, seas? So it's there's everything. Like if you come to India, there is no place you don't want to go. Don't want you're not going to miss out on anything basically. If you
Okay.
want to see mountains, you have snowy mountains, you have beaches, you have waterfalls, lakes, everything over here. Deserts. Yeah. So
Wow.
whatever you want to, yeah. So what it's like basically what you like to like explore.
That sounds like the place to be.
It is.
That is beautiful. So you talked about Mumbai being the Hollywood of India, or Bollywood. I was just thinking because I saw a couple of movies that had Mumbai in it and Delhi and all of those, like the Mission Impossible movie, for example. Um, in that movie, it had a big sandstorm. Does that is that typical there, or was that more cinematic?
The sandstorm is not in Mumbai. So they say, yeah, it's like it's all VFX.
Mm.
Yeah. But in Mumbai is famous for floods. So yeah,
Okay.
every year it rains. Yeah, it will flood for like 2 3 days or 5 days, something like that. So
Wow.
yeah, if you see a flood in Mumbai, yeah, it can be a real flood. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So thanks for debunking that theory. I appreciate that. Okay, well, let me ask you a question now that you've gone through your education and kind of your history a little bit. Um, would you say that you are successful at this stage in your life?
Uh, actually, I remember talking about success a few days back with one of my managers. and he was telling me about his work day. And he was telling like, I start work at 9 o'clock in the morning and I finish at 9:30 in the evening. And I'm like, why are you doing this? He is a manager. I'm like, you don't have a life. You work all day. You don't have life anything else, for anything else. And if you call this being successful, I don't think it's for me. For me, success is very different. I do need money. Of course, money is important. But for me, money is important because I want to be independent. I want to afford travel, and I want to afford food and shelter. That's why for me, money is important for that, and not for the luxury or anything like that. So I don't
Right.
define. So for me, success is when I can travel anywhere in the world, when like I don't have to think about anything else, and I can just, and I'm starting to get there. I'm still not fully there. So the past 1 year I have been traveling a lot. So I think I'm slowly getting there, but I'm still not completely over there. So traveling is the freedom to travel anywhere I want, anytime I want. So I think that will be success for me.
That's beautiful. I love it. See, I'm a fan of travel, which is the idea of why I have this channel, so that I can go and visit people in their countries, in their homes, and just to get to know
Yeah.
them where they are. So I can travel to do those things. So I respect that, and I really understand that, and I look forward to doing that eventually.
Yeah, definitely you'll do that. I'm sure.
So tell me about a a time in your life where you have felt it was the most challenging experience you've had, and what happened, what did you do, how did you get over it, or did you get over it, those types of things.
So challenging was basically, it was really personal to me. So it was a time when one of my best friends, she was moving to US. So yeah, so we spent like around 3 4 years together, always together in college, outside, and she wanted to study further. So I started my job, and she was studying. She was doing her job, and she also wanted to further continue her study in the US. And that's when she started to like apply for some universities over there. And then she moved to San Francisco. So it was around in the year 2016, I guess. Yeah, 2016. So when she moved over there, that time, and it's like it was that phase when we come from like we everyone is together in college, and then everyone is separated. They start their work life, and we don't see each other, all the friends all the time. We don't have time to talk to them or something like that. So yeah, that time was really difficult for me. And then I was going through a personal relationship issue. So it was like everything was happening at once. She left, the guy left, and I was like, I don't know what to do. So yeah, that's what the time I realized like this job, I don't like this job. And it's my friend being like, she took such a brave step, leaving her country, her family, her friends, and going so far to study and make her life. Then why I am I doing this? Like I'm living here, I can easily do, like I easily quit this job and do whatever I love. So that's when I decided that I'm not going to do this job, and I want to switch to an industry or a career where if whatever I do makes some impact, and I feel positive about that impact. So whatever my contribution is, I think that it matters, that contribution matters. So that's when I decided that I'm going to leave Mumbai, and I moved to Bangalore. So yeah, so that's when I changed cities. And it was, yeah, the personal reasons also. I couldn't stay, like I was going through really have a hard time. I couldn't stay in the same city as the guy was. So it was difficult for me that time. So I thought I decided to move cities. Yeah, so it's been like now 3 years I moved cities.
Yeah, that's a tough experience. Do you still keep in contact with your friend in San Francisco, or?
Yeah, yes. She's my best friend. Yeah, we always keep in contact. She is now in New York. So yeah, she was studying in San Francisco, and her current job is in New York.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm so glad. And maybe you'll get to go visit her.
Yeah, I'm hoping that she always keeps calling us. I'm like, yes, she's not been home since COVID. So yeah, we are really missing her. So I hope everything goes like comes back to normal and we get to visit us soon.
Thank you for sharing that experience with us. We really do appreciate that. Something that I've learned is there's power in telling stories and hearing them from just everyday people like you and me. We can learn something from those experiences, and that's kind of what the point of the show is. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what we do here, but that's kind of what we do, is we just tell people stories, and while others watch, maybe they can hear something that may apply to them, and let's see what we can do to help each other.
And sometimes when we are going through tough times, we always think it's just us and nobody understands us. But when we hear someone else's story, we like, oh, that person also is going through the same thing. It's not just me. And it's going to be, if it's okay for them, it's going to be okay for me as well.
That's
So it
right.
really helps that we hear similar stories. It helps us heal.
That's kind of the point of this, so thank you. So on the flip side of that, what is the most rewarding experience you've had, and what happened? What did you do, and kind of how did that handle out for you?
So the most rewarding experience, as I said, independence is really rewarding for me. So I have grown up in a family which has been, you know, in India, I'm not sure if it's exclusive to India, but being a girl growing up in the society, I've always lived under like strict rules, strict timelines. I have to be home at this time. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. So I've always lived that life for around 23, 24 years, and I seriously wanted to get out of that, and I wanted to explore myself, how I handle myself when I live independently, if I can do that or not. So when I first moved out, I really loved it. I of course missed my family because I was in that comfort zone, but I was ready to like be independent. I was not like I couldn't do this or couldn't cook food or couldn't handle finances or anything like that. I'm good in finances. I can make myself food. I can manage things. I'm good at, because I've always wanted to live alone. So I was like I need to be prepared for this, whatever comes through when I start to
Yeah.
live alone. So I trained myself for all this all along, and I'm really happy that I'm living alone. During COVID, I actually went home for a few months, so I was living with my parents. But then again, I miss the sense of freedom and independence, doing things on my own, being on my own timeline, because it's very uncommon in India to live away from your parents.
Mm.
Yeah, adults live there with their parents their whole life.
Okay.
Basically, yeah, and girls, what for girls, it's basically life since till they get married, they live with their parents, their brother or sister, whatever. And once they get married, they live with their husband's family or the husband. So for a girl to live alone or independent, it's very unique here. Still, it's unique.
See, that's another cultural thing that we may not have known. I didn't know this, so this is great. Maybe the viewers, they haven't known that, and this is really neat to experience.
It might be common for the upper middle class family or rich families where they have that financial independence to do that. But for middle class families or lower middle class families or people who are like there is only one earning member in the family, it's not very common to for the children or the parents to live different. Everyone lives together their whole life.
Interesting. So how about what time or about what age do they, say my parents lived with their parents, or my dad lived with his dad's side, with my mom. At what point do my parents leave their parents?
So usually it's mostly around people move to different cities when they for job opportunities. So that's the basic thing when people are moving away from their parents. So my parents, they move away from like my grandparents when my dad got a job in Mumbai. So everyone was living in Rajasthan, but when my dad got a better job opportunity here, he came to Mumbai with my mother. And then my uncle and aunts, and they also came here because of for better job opportunities. So that was the time like when they got married and they got better job, because once you get married you need to earn for the whole family. So basically it's very common for the male to be earning member over here. At least it was 20 years back, 20 25 years back, that was very common. Now we can see everyone is earning, so it's very common. But around 25 30 years back, it was the male member of the family who was earning. So it was his responsibility to take care of the family. And even though he doesn't want to, he have to move away from the family because he has to earn something for everyone.
Yeah.
So that is like everyone is affected by patriarchy, not just women. Men, women, everyone see the negative effects of patriarchy. So yeah, so the male has to move away from his family even if he doesn't want to.
Given.
So that's very common that after marriage, for better job opportunities, couples move away. Yeah.
Wow.
Y'all are brave souls over there. Different cultures, different lifestyles.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're familiar too much with the United States and kind of the culture here, um, but typically what happens is when you get about 18 or 17, yeah, you just kind of go, and then sometimes the parents are like, come back, or they're just like, see you later.
So, well, like I wanted to understand, like I am aware that children move out of their parents at the age of 18, but these children are still studying and they are either in undergraduation college or they are
Mhm.
doing some part-time job. So how do they manage all this?
So usually what happens is once the 18-year-old, they'll go off to school if that's kind of the route that they go. So they usually do two routes. They either go to school or they go work full time. And so that's kind of the two paths. So if they go to school, sometimes they'll work part time while at school, and they'll go and find an apartment somewhere with a bunch of roommates, or maybe they'll live closer to home and still go to school so that they can stay at home while going to school, but still they've kind of split their ties of dependence on their parents, even though they may be living at home, because they're going to school and they're going to work. They just live there so that they don't have to have that the financial burden for living expenses. But for the most part, they'll move out and get roommates, and then what will happen from there is they'll either apply for financial aid from the government. They have programs that give us either scholarships or grants or loans, which will help get them through school. And so usually that either pays for housing, pays for food, it pays for school, and that's kind of what happens.
Students, like they spend their whole lives paying off the college debt.
Yep.
And your educational system is allowing all of the women now to get education over there in India, which is great. It's a great opportunity for them. And you don't have much debt or financial assistance that you need to do that, which is nice. Yeah, not here. They spend a dime on you, they want that dime plus tax.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
It
Yeah,
kind of makes
everything has a positive and a negative side. Yeah.
that's true, and that's kind of, the world's different in all sorts of places. So, but some things are common.
Yeah, correct.
So that's interesting. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. I don't want to take too much more of your time in your day, so I wanted to ask you two closing questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
The two questions that I like to ask is, what have you learned? So about either yourself or this discussion, what have you learned, and what do you hope people learn from you?
So the thing which I've learned about myself is I've always, as I told you, always wanted to be independent, live away from my parents, live alone. But when I lived here for 2 years and went back home, I realized that it's not that great. Like, it's good to live with parents. It's good to have family all the time around you, and but you have to make that boundaries and that conversation with your parents that they give you space. So that's what I learned, that I was so adamant and I was so stubborn that I want to live alone. I want to go away from my parents. But when I actually was living alone and when I went back, I realized that I was actually taking all that for granted. So yeah, so I learned that I don't want to take my family for granted. I don't want to take my friends for granted. So yeah, it's good to, even though I thought it was not going good, because I understand that sometimes not every family is a perfect family. Sometimes it can be toxic for some people. So I understand where people are coming from, why they don't want to live with their family. But yeah, they are a great support system, and you should always have a dialogue, have a conversation with them, make them understand, and not just react and overreact and do things. And the thing which I want people to learn from me is take bold steps. Don't be afraid to do whatever you want to do. Don't be afraid to hurt people. So I was like that. I was afraid to hurt people because I had a very people pleasing personality basically. That
Mhm.
my actions, like, even if it's hurting me, it shouldn't hurt the other person.
Sure.
So on my expenses, I let other people be happy. So eventually I learned that I don't have to do that. If it makes me happy and it's not bothering anyone else, I should do it. So
That's
basically, moving away from my parents or cutting off ties with some people, it was good for me and I had to do that. So I advise my younger cousins, my friends, that they see me like, okay, you're traveling all the time, you're living alone. My school friends basically, they're like, you are always traveling, you're living alone. How your parents don't say anything? My parents will never allow me. I'm like, but you have to, if you want to do it, you have to take that step. They will be hurt for a little time, but they will understand eventually. If you are happy, if you're on the right path, if you're not doing anything wrong to yourself or anybody other, they won't say anything bad about you, or they won't, shout at you or be upset with you, as long as you're doing the right thing.
yeah.
So yeah, I tell my cousins and everyone, like, don't be afraid to pick a fight with your parents if you are doing something right. It's okay.
Yeah.
Eventually they will also understand. The reason, because they come from a place where they are scared for us, that we might get hurt in whatever we want, the path we are taking, or we might end up in a bad company or bad zone or something like that. So we have to take that steps and make them understand that it's okay, whatever we are doing, it's going to be okay, and you do with their support.
Yep,
So yeah, that's all.
that's awesome. So your independence, and I can tell you're a very independent person. um, and just be bold. I respect that a lot. Thank you so much for sharing yourself with us today, sharing your confidence, your independence, and this is a new experience for the both of us, so it's great. It's a bold step.
Yeah, it is. That's right.
um, so, thank you everyone for watching Who Is series. Who is Veena? As you got to see who she is in India. We thank her again for visiting with us today and having a conversation. If you like what you see and you have any questions or anything, leave some comments down below, and maybe she and I can coordinate about any questions you may have for her, and maybe we can get some responses back to you. If you want to share your story, please, by all means, send us a message, and then we can connect with you. We appreciate you. Thank you, everyone.